Hey guys, we have special surprises, 2 special guests tonight to talk about Mary and Jane, Season 1, Episode 9, Neighbors. So this is the AfterBuzz TV After Show on AfterBuzz TV.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Well, we're moving on.
I love this.
Moving on up, you guys. Right? Hey guys, welcome to the AfterBuzz TV After Show for Mary and Jane. We have the co-creators with us today. Deborah Kaplan and Harry Elfont, and we are so excited to have both of you in studio. Huge fan. So I want to introduce myself really quick before we jump in because I'm just going to start talking about them all day. I'm Jennifer Leone. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jennifer Leone TV, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Abigail Fraher, and you can find me on all social media at Abigail Fraher.
Hi guys, I'm Ava Hill, and you can find me on Instagram at the Ava Hill.
And you guys, tell our audience where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Real Deb Kaplan. On Instagram, I run the Mary Jane MTV.
It was you that liked my photos.
Did I like your
And I got so excited. I was like, oh, she saw my Instagram.
It's hard for me because I have a personal Instagram and then I have
It's a
Twitter.
bounce back and forth between
But you know,
them.
it's because we started the Instagram account when we were in the writers' room, and I've been holding on to it so tightly and not letting the corporate people take it over. And I feel like now I got to see it through to the end. But it's really hard to go through and like. But I read everybody who likes all the
well, thank you. I literally got so excited.
Yeah.
I didn't know who was behind the account, but now I know.
Fun facts. Wow.
It's become a full-time job.
It is a full-time
No, social
Running
media
that
is a
Instagram.
full-time job.
No, it
I
really
had
is.
no idea, you guys. I'm like too old. To
It is
do
a
that.
real thing.
I'm because I have to do my last post at night for the West Coast people, and then I'm up at like 6 a.m. going, I got to post something for the people on the East Coast because they're awake now.
Yeah.
Right,
and-
they're going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a huge LA-based show, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're trying to get everyone to watch. I feel we were talking a lot about how it talks about LA most of the time, so people on the other side, I don't know, like, do they respond to you and talk to you about like how it's not?
Well, hold on. Before we continue,
Yeah, where can we find Harry?
you?
Thank you.
Harry.
I
was going to bring it
pretty
in.
much just to Twitter. It's just
Okay.
at Harry Elfont.
Okay.
All right, so
We'll
it's
get to
your
have
full
you
name.
there.
Thank you. So, yes, I'm sorry. I just jump right in with all of this. So with Mary and Jane, we were talking about how it's such an LA-based show. So can you tell us about, how it's comparable to the East Coast and getting the East Coast people to understand what's going on in the crazy world over here in LA?
Well, I mean, it's funny because we're both from there. We're both from Philadelphia. We both went to school in New York. I mean,
Where did you go to school?
We both went to NYU. This is where we met in film school at NYU.
Aw.
So we have East Coast roots.
Wait, so you guys are like,
That's so cool.
aw.
We've known each other forever.
Yeah.
Aw.
And you guys wrote
Yeah. It's so cute.
And you guys did Can't Hardly Wait together.
We did.
Which was your, was it your first time directing?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then you worked with Seth Green on that.
Yeah.
Is this your first time working with him again?
No, he did. If you saw Josie and the Pussycats, he does a cameo at the beginning of that as a member of Du Jour, the boy band that goes down in the plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So it's 3 times now that you work with Seth Green.
It feels like it's been more, but that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
So you guys have been at this for a very long time.
Yeah, we old.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that
Age
way.
is just a number.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Right. So this whole episode is about neighbors. And Deb, I saw on Twitter that you're having a bit of an issue with your neighbors
geez.
right now. I wanted to ask you about that.
It was a weird night, you guys. That I have.
Check out Deb's Twitter because seriously, it's hilarious. It's just so funny.
I live in, a lot of people in LA, we live in canyons. So there's a lot of, it's akin to in New York where you live maybe where there's a wall between your buildings and sound bounces back and forth. A canyon, every noise sort of echoes around. Right.
It really does.
And I've lived in this house for 3 years now, and the people behind me have these dogs, and they keep them outside at night. And every night I go to sleep, and I hear the dogs barking, and I think, like, oh, I gotta tell them, like, they should bring their dogs inside at night. And every day I forget about it, because, you know, you're busy. And then every night I'm like, God, I didn't write the letter again. And after 3 years, finally, I decided, you know, I'm just going to write that letter. I'm going to drop it in their mailbox. Just write something, you know, nice, simple. I did it. I dropped it in the mailbox. I went to our Facebook Live and our live tweet. And I'm sitting there, and I get an email back that was so aggressive.
Oh, no.
And so hateful that it got cut off and had to be continued in another email.
I just couldn't believe that. How long does an email have to be to get cut off?
I don't know. I was like, I guess I woke a sleeping giant. Anyway, the end result is we have sort of worked it out. I think there's just like a tentative piece, because I think, you know, after today and stuff, we all need to sort of come together. So the dogs were inside last night, and
that's all you want.
That's all I wanted.
Good.
I know. I was like, how much is there to work out? It keeps people up. That's I can't handle dogs that don't
There
stop.
was something I said in the letter that ticked her off. And by the way, my letter was maybe 5 or 6 lines. So within those 5 or 6 lines, I said the one thing that I should not say.
Right.
And it went horribly wrong. So there you go.
I just couldn't believe how perfect, though, it was in the timing with this episode.
Yeah.
And what's going on.
I know, right? We're tweeting about, like, bad neighbors and people, yeah.
Crazy neighbors. And speaking of tweets, so we were all talking about the woman who was doing the vajoints and the girl who does drangs, but those are writers on the show.
Just Miss Cannabis.
Just Miss Cannabis. So the girl, right?
And the reason, actually, you know, MTV, a lot of networks have this where if you're the first season, they don't let you put the writers on the show. It's just a policy. They're like, no,
We
just you
really
got to hire
wanted
actors.
Cameos.
Yeah.
All season we were like, what's our cameo going to be? What are we going to be? Because, you know, we're not, like, of the age that we're considered very old for MTV. Like, what are we going to play? Like the grandparents with the walkers.
Stop. Like the hottest grandparents. Right?
So, I think, did you want to play the pot doctor?
I was going to play the pot doctor, and
Oh my gosh.
in WeedCon, who tells her that the guy died and that he can't do anything. He's a pot doctor. And granted, the guy we hired was fantastic, but they said, no, you can't do it. I said, I'll audition. I don't care. They're like, no, that's the policy. But for Miss Cannabis, we were going to have an extra, just dress up in the beauty pageant costume. And our line producer was really freaked out. She said, I don't feel comfortable asking just a background performer to do this action, to literally like squat over a thing of weed and come out with a joint. So we said, oh, Andy Bolt will do it.
Oh my God.
She wrote
She's
that
our
episode.
writer, and you know, I mean, look, the stuff we came up with in the writers' room, like, you know, just, you know, you're in there all day and you're riffing about all the things that would be at Marijuana Con, and like, I don't even know how vajoints came up.
Vajoints.
You know, we're talking about
Yes.
like, you know, particular talents you could have, and that was, it might have come from Andy, and we're like, she'll do it.
Well, she also wrote that episode, so it was just fun
And she
for her to
does
be able to do
stand
it.
up, and you know, she's sort of fearless.
Really comfortable with all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah. That's so funny.
If you guys didn't see, there's someone who, Miss Cannabis, she rolls a vajoint with her vagina. And it was very clever.
It was really clever.
But I also read that you guys take from your personal experiences and put them in the show and deal with, you know, big things like how Andy did with cancer and her family.
Yeah.
So have
Yeah.
you guys brought anything into the show?
Well, you know, I want to address that too, because you know, every morning we would sit when we would come in, and we had a little sofa set up, and everyone would sit and sort of talk about their day or their night before or whatever happened. And I know that there were some people who, very few, by the way, our fans have been really lovely, and I actually think the stoner community in particular, it's a really nice group of people. Like, there's no hate. Like, I never see hate on that Instagram. I never see sexism. I never see racism. I actually see, there's just a lot of love, like, amongst everybody who watches the show. One person on Twitter said, I don't want to watch this show anymore. I think this cancer episode is really insensitive. Andy Bolt, who wrote the episode, her mother has very late stage cancer, the same one that Steve Jobs had. And this episode was really important to her to write this episode. And another one, our co-executive producer is also a cancer survivor. And we never would have written that episode and been so cavalier about it had we not had 2 people in the room who were dealing with that issue. And everything that's in any of those episodes, there's something that's drawn from somebody's life. You know, we weren't really, except maybe like time travel.
Speak for yourself.
Right. Did they really time travel?
Answer
What do
that,
you
Harry.
think?
See, we were a split panel.
I like. See, that's the point. Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
it
the
is.
point
No
was to be a
an
split
unanswered
panel.
question,
Yes.
right?
All right.
I still don't understand.
That makes me feel so much better.
Seriously, because we debate all the time. You know, is this real?
Yeah.
Is
The
it?
whole point was to leave it ambiguous.
All right.
The same way with the same way in the pilot with the skeleton and the turkey.
Yes.
Maybe that's what they really look
Yes.
like when
Right.
you walk into their bedroom.
Who
Right.
knows?
Well, we'll never
Exactly.
find out now.
But it was Brad
Right.
and Angelina, right? It was Brad and Angelina. I knew.
We
I knew
cannot
it.
say legally
But it was.
that it was them.
Right? Oh my gosh, that's so
But
funny.
Inspired.
you draw your own conclusions.
You made it, yeah.
Allegedly and
That's
inspired.
hilarious.
Save yourself with the allegedly.
But how did you react to that then when you saw that tweet? Did you respond to it? or-
I forwarded it to Andy,
Okay.
and I said, "Do you want to address this?" Because I feel like she needed to be able to speak to that person directly and
Right.
say, "Hey, you know." And I don't know if that person responded to her or not, but look, it's the internet has given everybody a voice and a place to, as we saw yesterday, and I felt it was important that whoever wrote that know that, look, you're welcome to feel however you want to feel and you're welcome to speak up about it. But like, this did not come from a place of like, we're making fun of people with cancer. We are trying to look at it through a lens of humor and also through a lens of humanity. I mean, at the end of that episode, Paige and Trent come to sort of a, there's a friendship that's built there, not just of her showing him her tits, but like actually like she helped him make a little bit of a breakthrough there. So
Well, I think when we talked to the room as we were breaking that story about just the, to have a character who's just angry about this, who doesn't want to be kind of the nice, like teach people a lesson through his illness.
Being
He's just
noble.
pissed off. And everybody felt like that was kind of important to do. Look, we're always going to do it through humor and we're going to make jokes about it, but I think that was an element that at least Andy felt like she hadn't really seen in this way. So it felt like it worked.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
it
liked
definitely
it.
did.
To
I
only
thought it
get
was.
one
I thought it was
complaint,
really
that's
true
not
too.
bad.
I feel like there's a lot more angry people than is portrayed on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always anger
Right.
behind all of that sadness. It's
And it
like,
was-
what?
And it was sort of, you can tell because we juxtapose it with that sort of noble, hunky guy who's dying. Who's just like, I'm going to make the most of my time and this book of poetry, and they're going to Europe together, and just
Get
I don't know.
married.
Well, and satirizing the romance.
Right.
Paige was looking for a very romantic,
Of course.
Nicholas
Always.
She's
Sparks
always
experience.
She is
Yes.
always on the hunt.
So true.
Yeah.
Except for in this episode. And we're
Yeah.
happy that they're back together because
Yeah.
it seems like, they were separated for a little bit, Mary and Jane, at Jordan and Paige. So in this one, they're together, working together, and talking about their new neighbors.
This is an interesting episode because we had this goal when we started the show. We're so naive as first time showrunners. We're going to get all our scripts done before we started production, which was a really lofty goal, and people were kind enough to not really laugh at us.
But yeah, we said they're like, oh, okay, good luck with that. That's a good goal.
And we'd basically written this script called Bake Sale, which was about a skate park in Venice. And it was going to be about how these tech companies have moved into Venice and gentrified, which is what's really happening right now, and gentrify the neighborhood, and they're taking everything over and ruining the charm of Venice. And there's an app company, and they're going to destroy this last sort of like gritty skate park in Venice and build like a giant climbing wall. And the girls decide they're going to hold this bake sale and sell edibles to save the skate park. And basically what we wrote was an episode that would have cost so much money, we couldn't have done it. And
Okay.
so we had to throw it away.
Ah.
So we have a director coming who has...
But we were shooting.
Yes.
Like, this was well into production. We realized, okay, we're not going to be able to shoot this episode. And it was probably 2 weeks before we realized, oh, we really need to... And this happens a lot on TV shows. It just hadn't happened on this show because we're on set all the time. So we were on set kind of freaking out, okay.
And now our writer's room is gone because they were let go, I think 2 weeks into shooting?
Yeah.
2 weeks into shooting.
no.
We have
You
no
had
more-
everything.
So we have no
Okay.
more staff.
Oh my
we have no more
gosh.
scripts. So anything that happened once we started shooting, we were just cleaning up. There were a couple people who were nice enough to hang around.
Well, and actually, Maggie was on.
Yeah.
Who we co-wrote this episode with.
Yes,
She
that's
was
true.
actually still on as a producer.
And our writers whoever's episode it was would hang around, but we were sort of adrift, and we realized, okay, we have no script at all. And we realized we have to have it all take place kind of in the apartment. And all we knew was, okay, it's all going to take place in the apartment. And there's going to be people who move in to the apartment downstairs. And we're going to just flip the apartment and make it look like a different apartment.
That was so funny, by the way.
Crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
you walk in, it's like, where the hell
are
am
you?
I?
Yeah.
So nice.
And then we came up with, I think, the notion of there's going to be like a beautiful bathroom and they're going to wreck it.
Can I please just say that I want to move my bed in that bathroom.
bathroom was amazing.
Because that is a beautiful bathroom.
Yeah, our
huge.
production design, I mean, it almost gave everybody a heart attack. Our producer, our line producer was, you know, I mean, it was a lot, that
Yeah.
bathroom, to build that bathroom. And, you know, we built it on a stage, just separate from our apartment set. Because all we did was redress the apartment set, the girls' apartment. And then it's their same apartment that we
okay.
just stripped down and
redone.
redecorated.
I had wanted to do a thing where we were going to actually shoot it and then reverse the image, so it looked like kind of the mirror layout of the apartment.
Right.
And we'd have to make sure,
smart.
like if there was any printing on shirt, we'd do it backwards.
And you have
so
to
we
move
flip
your
it.
part.
And our director said,
That's a
we don't need
lot.
to do that. He said, it's so nobody's going to notice.
You're like,
He's
"Look, I have this
literally-"
vision.
And he just did. I think he had just done the same thing on Modern Family, maybe.
Yeah.
Where it was the same exact thing. Where they walked into a neighbor's apartment and they just reused the set. That you just redress it, and nobody knows.
And I think when we finished the first draft of the script, it was something like 44 pages. And, you know, a script should be at the
Under 30.
most, yeah. So the challenge was, you know, in a matter of days, was trying to get this script to a workable length, and we just couldn't do it. I mean, and there were tears. I think that was sort of the one where I was like, we're not gonna pull this off. And to his credit, Phil Trail, who directed this episode, has done so much episodic television. We were really lucky that just by chance his slot fell right then, and he's sort of unflappable. You know, he's English, and he's just like. It didn't even seem to bother him when he showed up to prep and we said, well, we have an outline for you of what's going to happen. And he couldn't, you know.
And to Seth Green's credit, we just emailed Seth saying, hey, we've got an idea for an episode that the girls have these neighbors. Do you want to come be a neighbor? And he just said yes. He didn't read a script. I don't even think he's on outline. He was like,
Wow.
yeah, sure.
He
I'm
did
there.
so good.
Yeah,
They
he was
all
so
did.
funny. It was such a good.
No, this whole episode was
Yeah.
really, really great. So you couldn't even tell that there was even any
Yeah.
struggle there.
I know, and that's like, you know, being an actress myself, like I love to see the different layers as to what it takes to put something together, because you know you never see that on screen. Like you never see the back work as far as, you know, what it has to take and the set and what you have to do, and it's just it's great to now have that perspective looking at the episode.
I know. I want to go back and rewatch.
Yeah.
We're going to
it.
rewatch and just be like,
rewatch
whoa.
it. I
There's
really
some
do.
stuff too that I mean, this is silly, but there's some stuff like I remember just literally tearing through our first draft, thinking like, all right, this is just a placeholder. Like we'll top this. We'll come up with something better. It's in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
We never went back for it.
What moments
possible.
were those?
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to know that.
I
It's
love
just
this.
some of the peak stuff. Some of like the I
So,
open
like, the
my eyes
bird.
to you.
Oh, yeah,
and
and the shadow of the
and
mountain.
the shadow of the mountain. I was like, oh, we'll do better than this.
But,
And
just,
we just
but,
it's in.
but Leonard came in, and he has such his voice, his presence. He has such authority that
Yeah.
he sold it.
It totally sold it.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Oh, my gosh, it was so funny. He was like, wait, it's my time. What is it? The channel?
Contemplation.
Contemplation, where he has to look at the peak. Well, I love when Jordan started talking about how she was like, well, I studied in Australia, so it's opposite.
Right. The way she came up with that, I was like,
So smart. But so, how long did it take though to do the whole scene with Paige with all the water
Yes,
in
that's a
the
great
bathroom?
question.
Do we have a couple
It
hours?
was
for
not
that?
that long. I mean, because the issue is, once we got her wet,
you had to.
We
We
were
were
told
done.
that's it. Once she's wet. you
Speaking
can't
of-
go back.
Speaking of,
I just spelled
spelled it
sorry.
well done.
Anyway,
Not on the phone.
right. Go,
Yeah,
I'm so, sorry.
with with things like that, with an actress who's got long hair and the makeup and the one outfit, we're not. It's an MTV show. You don't have all that money to spend. So it's like once you get that outfit wet and the hair gets wet, it's an hour and change to redo her. So once she's wet, she's wet. So you shoot all the stuff with her walking around, And then also once you dry that bathroom, you've got to, once you get that bathroom wet, you've got to pump out all the water, you know, and you recycle it, but you got to get it all. There's a water truck outside.
It was fun. The set was surrounded by a wall about maybe 2 or 3 feet high.
And the water just trickles in?
Well, it's just so it becomes kind of like a bathtub. The whole set, so the water is contained within the set.
Okay.
And then there's a whole drain system that they
curious
drain it out.
about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone had to bring boots from home, and you know there's a memo that went out like on
I love
Monday,
details
bring
like
boots
this.
in and
I
wear
love
your
it.
rain boots. We got a couple extra, but other than that, like you know, yeah, I mean it's really making a show like this. It's really about like who's game to show up and do it. I mean, and we had a really great group of people who once they figured out that you know it was fun and everyone was in it really because they loved doing it. It was I mean that was a fun day.
Yeah, it was a really fun day.
This could have killed a lot of people. People could have been really angry. Like there was that day when they're all sitting on the sofa, like everybody, and they're looking at that video. I think did we shoot 12 pages that day?
Yeah, it was more pages than we've ever shot on the show.
It was brutal. I mean, people could have been really angry and not wanted to come back, but to their credit, like everyone's a really good sport, and I think they knew. We tried to treat everybody kindly and make the set happy, and
That's what Scout. I mean, when she was here, she had the same review. I mean, she loved working with everyone, and she said how positive the crew was, and just like the bond, I guess, that you guys created shooting this.
Yeah.
And
it
to
was a
their
fun
credit,
experience.
Scout and Jess were great. You know, a lot of people take their cues when actors come on the set. They take their cues from the stars of the show, and Scout and Jess were that same. They were game for anything. Never complained. You know, they were such pros. I mean, they, you know, when the show wrapped, they had baked cookies for people, and they brought champagne themselves to celebrate.
Like
They
really
were just
down to earth. And
really, really just great people, and I think everybody took their cues from them. So it was great.
How long did it take for you guys to film the whole season? It's 10 episodes,
10
right?
episodes.
So
It was 4 days an episode. We would shoot 2
started-
episodes at a time.
wow.
we started the week of 420, right? Because we
Yeah, we did.
I
That's
remember 'cause
appropriate.
we had we wanted to have like a 420. We made a Twinkie cake for 420, and then we
is that
wrapped
it?
That we can say.
we wrapped the week of June 13th.
Oh,
Which
okay.
I think our last day of shooting was
Right,
June
so it
13th.
was, I don't know what that is. 6 weeks? No, that's more than that.
And we took
8
Memorial Day off, which I remember like it was a big deal to take a day off.
It was a blur.
it seems really fast. Is
was
that
super fast.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I don't know how those things run. So if you know, generally if they go that
Like Snatch
that long.
Lorette, which was when we directed, we shot in that was 3 days,
Wow.
and the rest of them were 4 days.
See all the magic that happens behind like the camera, like you never know. So
Right.
it's great to hear
Yeah.
like the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well,
details.
you guys mostly do film though, right? And
Prior to this, we'd
right.
only done movies up until this is our first TV series. We'd written some pilots,
Okay.
and you know, we'd shot some pilots, but it didn't get anything on the air, and we'd run back to movies after each bad TV experience.
So now
Go back
doing
to
both,
it.
like which what do you appreciate about both?
The immediacy of this is a lot of fun. You know, we wrote the pilot. We shot the pilot to Mary Jane
A year ago.
A year ago,
Oh, okay.
and now we're coming up on a year, and we've almost shown every single episode. And it's nice. It's nice to every week. I it's as exhausting as this. It's really fun to sit there on Twitter and watch the show and have people
And have
commenting.
people comment
Yeah.
and stuff.
You
Yeah.
get rewarded quicker, and it's a constant. I feel like
Yeah.
each week that's cool. It's like a gift.
Yeah.
Each week you
Yeah.
get to see that people are appreciating
Now,
your
that's
work.
the
rewarding.
good thing
Yeah.
about social media. I will say social media gets on my last nerve a lot.
Yeah, I know.
But one thing that it's really good at doing is it creates a communication with your fan base. So then you can know, like, you can probably have different ideas. Like, have you gotten different ideas from talking to fans about the show, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, and you know what people like. I mean, unfortunately, everything was done by the time the episode started to air. There was no going back.
There was no
and
going back,
fixing.
exactly, right,
But it's
right.
nice to know,
Like, what
if,
people
if there's a
appreciated or what
next
they-
time, what people like about
Right,
the show.
right.
It's also nice that, with movies, you can work for, 3 to 5 years, whatever, and it could all be over, after a couple hours on a Friday night if it's not doing well and it's done. And you don't really know what people didn't like. You
Right.
see reviews, which, we don't really tend to read anyway. But to actually interact with people
With
who are
people,
watching
right.
it from week to week and get what people are responding to. So
In
that,
real time, too.
yeah, so that when
Yeah.
next time if you go out and you do it again,
You know.
you know. which is
Yeah.
really nice.
And there's
That is
also a
nice.
freedom to, in a movie you're so obsessed with just that one story. It's 90 minutes to 2 hours, and everything's about that. With this, it's kind of nice to have a little
It's
bit
evolving.
of a reset each
Right,
week. Like
yeah.
this one, we didn't know what it was going to be.
Right,
we're like, we're
right,
just going to
right.
shoot this script, who knows? And it actually turned out well, but there's a little bit of a freedom, and all right.
There's
so,
like more spontaneity, I guess. In
yeah, there's
spontaneity.
Yeah.
I can't even.
Or
I can't
you-
speak today.
Either one.
It's been a rough day.
I understand.
It's been a tough day.
I lose my words
you-
all the time.
But you get my point.
Yep.
And you find out what works for the next time.
Yeah.
What has it been renewed?
No,
Do you
not
know?
yet.
Not
we
yet.
won't
Okay.
find out
All
for.
right.
We won't find out. I don't think until well after the season finale.
Okay.
There've been some changes at MTV
Oh.
Okay.
in terms of upper management.
Like,
Okay.
okay.
So-
Viacom and everything?
all
okay.
that.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
all of
gotcha.
that is a whole
Okay.
thing.
So we got a little tea just now.
Oh, a little bit. Wait.
Got a little
so-
MTV
What
tea.
can you tell us about next week's episode?
Is the season finale?
I'm on predictions.
Sorry, Jen. I'm jumping ahead. I'm like so excited.
So ahead. I know. We all just want to soak in what you guys have to say.
The episode is called 420.
Yes.
It's sort of a glimpse into what would happen if corporate weed started to take over, which is interesting considering what happened yesterday.
Right.
So fitting.
I was going to ask what's next for Mary and Jane.
Wait, I felt like I predicted this though.
You kind of
in a
did.
previous episode.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to see what the finale will bring.
So it's when the girls come up against corporate weed that's sort of trying to buy up all the small dealers.
And the
And-
backdrop is 420, which we're treating like Christmas. So
Yeah,
it's
that
kind of like a
is-
Christmas episode where Christmas has gotten so commercial, and now it's 420's gotten so commercial with corporate weed.
Oh, I love it.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So
And-
clever.
And our co-executive producer has a very special cameo in the episode.
Yay!
Oh, we
Finally.
predicted.
What?
We predicted this.
For people who don't know, that would be Snoop.
I knew it. We knew it. We called
Right?
this.
It's like
I
he
think
has
we
to be on it.
Did we
First
call this?
episode,
We
I
did.
did.
Yeah,
called
we
it.
did.
He
We
has
called
to
it.
show up at some point.
Have to wait till the end.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
write it out to the very last one.
I
great.
love that. That's awesome.
And there's
I'm
some other
excited.
good guest stars too. Andy Daly from everything. Andy Daly from Review and
Eastbound and
Eastbound and
Down
Down.
and Silicon
Right.
Valley
Ah.
and
This is
and
amazing.
Kate Flannery from The Office.
Wow.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Who else?
Utkarsh back. Melissa Villasenor, who is she's the newest SNL cast member.
Oh,
yeah.
She's
The
guesting on the
Latina.
Yes.
Well, I would love to know what was the process as far as picking the right actors for Paige and Jordan. Like, what was that like? Was it hard? Was it?
Yeah.
What was it like?
I mean, what the interesting thing was, we saw Scout the first or second day probably, and suddenly she was just Jordan. She just kind of
Yeah.
was.
She
We
is.
read a bunch of people, and you have to test multiple people when you go in a network, and there were different ways to go. But she was just something about the way she came in. She just became that part.
I feel like they're very similar too, based on
Yeah,
what she
like
was
real life
telling
stuff.
about
Yeah.
her.
Right.
personal-
Right,
Is it
yeah.
the same way with Jess? Is she pretty similar to
Which
her
we
character?
had no idea of knowing, but
okay, so you didn't go into
Yeah.
it knowing that.
and then and what we did was
I mean, the character was always written as sort of pansexual and very free and very
Which Scout
like,
is to me in real life.
and didn't really care and
Yeah.
what people thought of her and dressed
but
how
also
she
it's
wanted
very
dressed.
it's very
And-
strong, believes
and
what she believes
strong
very strongly.
and feminist and but she wasn't sort of the visual picture that we
Okay.
had in our heads
Oh.
at all. I mean, when Scout came in, she was wearing like one of those crazy, like a hat from, you guys know where Santee Alley is downtown, where you buy like knockoff bags. and stuff. Like it was from the movie Frozen, and it was like airbrushed. And I think she had like, and
She came in dressed absolutely absurd.
she was like a Looney Tune.
Oh
and,
my gosh.
And she's Scout because she does not care, but she's one of a kind, and she gave such an interesting read, and she walked out, and it was like, well, no one can do what she does,
Yeah.
and you
So we
can't
cast
forget
her.
about that.
So we cast her right away. We had a network testing session. We cast her. Now we had to find a Paige. We also had to find a Paige that matched up well with Scout. So Scout then was nice enough to come in and read with, I think, every actress in LA between like 22 and 32.
Not us.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure you guys were there. I don't think you remember. Yeah.
That's where it's senior. Yeah.
And,
No,
yeah.
I would. You didn't see me, but sadly, but
But that's so funny.
Plus.
So in Jessica, we had seen somebody showed us a little viral video that she had done for the Onion News Network. Where she's like, "Oh, she's really funny." She came in and read. She read for the casting director, and we came in for our session, and she was gone. She left to do some independent film, and it was like she didn't exist. We liked the read. We were like, we want to see her in person. And then we could never get her to come back in, and we tested more people. We brought more people into the network, and then finally, maybe it was a week before we were starting shooting. I don't think it was. I think it was really close.
Oh, wow.
She was back in town.
So did you have somebody else picked for the role, and then you kind of replaced? You were like, oh,
we
actually.
had some people who we thought could maybe do it, but
Okay.
it just wasn't.
Didn't feel right.
Didn't feel
Yeah,
right.
it didn't feel.
Yeah.
It didn't feel right.
It's a chemistry thing at that point. You know, when you have one half, they have to really just click.
Yeah.
Like you two, how you click.
Yeah.
So I have a question though. My mother is a huge fan of Leap Year, and whenever she talks about it, no, it's her movie, okay? Because she loves everything over there. I
Sure.
could get it. She will talk your ear off about it, but she loves romance. And you see that on Mary and Jane, that there's two counterparts. There's this romantic character and then the opposite. So which one of you is the romantic and which one? Is that how this works? You know, you guys are counterparts, or are you both those entities?
Jeez, at this point, I don't even know.
You just have one brain.
No, yeah,
You
I
just
don't know
have one
how
brain.
you split it up. Right, I mean, it's been a long time doing this.
I feel like I still want to believe in the romance. I still want to believe that is possible. But after a certain, look.
So we're talking to the scout over here, and
Look, I've been married, I've been divorced, I've had a number of relationships in my life, I have 2 children. Like, I'm a realist, and I know that a lot of this is manufactured by us, and I feel like we've done a bit of a disservice to women in thinking that there is this perfect thing that they have to go out and find,
Amen to
and
that.
that they need to be rescued by somebody. And I think what I've learned as I've gotten older and I've sort of been through some heartache, and that what you have to find first
I'm literally
is
taking notes right now.
you have to find first is you have to find happiness with yourself, and then you attract somebody
attract
else
that.
who's happy with themselves. Because what I'm realizing is, like, I never want to be in a relationship anymore where I look across the table and say, like, you don't make me happy, because it's not no one else is responsible for making you happy. And I think we've been, and look, and I get it. It's a fantasy. We're selling a fantasy, and I still want to sit down and watch those movies. I still will, like, I took my daughter to see that Bridget Jones baby, but like, I see all the moves now, and I see all the pieces, and like, there's still some great ones. You go back and you watch those, and I still get happy when I see them, and there's still hope for me that, like, that a good one is going to come out, but.
Tell Paige.
Well, we also made an effort, though. We did make an effort as we started talking about the whole season, because the pilot is very much about her love life, and she's heartbroken, and what she, at a certain point we thought, like, that was going to be her journey over the course of 10 episodes, is going to be getting over her ex-boyfriend, and then we thought that should not be her story. Like, she has so many other stories
More
other than
than
just being
that.
obsessed with this guy.
Right.
So we did away with him, and it was supposed to be the 3rd episode. It ended up being the 4th episode, and the
Just 'cause
time
they moved
travel
them
one.
around.
And so we realized that it's just too limiting to just make that character the romantic. She of the two, she's the more romantic,
Yeah.
but we made sure that every episode wasn't about a guy. In fact, I like that when we switched this episode, because her storyline in that original one was about a guy. It was about a relationship.
Yeah.
So
there were certain things we really wanted to avoid, just in sort of when we talked about the rules of the show. We said, okay, Paige and Jordan are never going to fight over a guy.
Love that.
No one's ever going to use the word bitch, whether it's even like, what's up, bitch? Or I just want to take the power away from that word. I just feel like it's
we failed, actually.
It's used once.
Twice.
What's the second
I
time?
think it's in the pilot. I
Is it really?
think Robbie says it to them.
Oh, well,
Sorry.
okay. We tried really hard. There's never going to be any guns, because I have a real, obviously, who wouldn't? But to me, and it was something I really felt strongly about, like, why it seems to be like a go-to. Like if you have a show about women, like one of them has to be mooning over guys all the time. And I just felt like we were leaning too heavily on that. And you'll see like in the later episodes, we really do back away from it.
That's so funny you said that, because I think it was like it was early on, 3 or 4. I was like, oh my God, can Paige just like, I just want to see her like stop with the guys. And then it happened. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. Like it was, that's an awesome, I feel like because you do have a huge younger female crowd too, it's really important that they kind of, whether they realize that this is being done to them or not, that they see that it is not always just about a man.
Yeah, because when you're in those younger years of your life, like, let's be 100 here.
Totally
It's
the world revolves around boys.
It's like everything.
I get it. Like, there's a really it feels good to fall in love. It feels good to have a crush on somebody.
Have
it feels
butterflies
good
in
to,
your
like,
stomach.
want to kiss somebody or like want someone to call or text you. But like also like you don't need that to have a good time. You don't like. This is a really strongly feminist show. It's two women,
really
who
is.
have a
I felt
business
that.
and-
I felt that.
We were gonna say that how amazing that is. Like, can you write everything on television? Like, this is such a great show. There's nothing like it. And I was wondering, you know, where you came up with this idea for the show, because you are the co-creators. Did Snoop approach you?
No, I mean, this was something we'd actually, it was kind of a reaction to some of the experiences we had doing some network development. We thought, let's do something kind of fun just for us. You know, we started looking around town and you seeing all the green pluses. We noticed all these dispensaries popping up. We're like, this is an interesting world. And then when we started looking into it a little bit, we just kind of stumbled on this idea of delivery and, you know, an all-female delivery service. And it just came out of that. Once we kind of had the, oh my gosh, all-female delivery service, we were like, that's a series. They could go anywhere. Yeah. We can do whatever we want. And we wrote it. Normally we go pitch these things. And when we started pitching it, people said, oh, all right, so it's like a young version of Weeds. And we knew it shouldn't be like that at all.
Oh, right. I never even thought that. So that's amazing that you.
So we just wrote it.
That.
We just quickly just wrote it, and we didn't write it like a pilot. We didn't do a lot of setup or exposition, and we didn't try to make them extra likable. We just wrote whatever made us laugh. It stayed in, and that was the pilot. And MTV ended up reading it and said, we love it, and they shot pretty much that first version that we wrote.
Wow, so it happened that fast.
Yeah,
it was pretty quick. It took a while to make the deal. It actually took about a half a year between when MTV read it to when we actually shot the pilot, if not longer. Maybe almost a full year. But still, once we shot the pilot, it was super fast. And then Snoop got involved. Once we were in business with MTV and they picked up the show, they'd been talking to him about doing something else. And then they realized, wait, this is a great marriage of brands. And we were thrilled to have him get involved.
that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, who wouldn't be? I mean,
It's the theme song.
Right.
That's a great theme song, by the way. Like, we need it on our iPods. We can't get it on YouTube.
There is a version that exists that's like a minute. He did a version that's about a minute and a half long that could be released as a single, but I think the publishing rights.
Oh,
they can't afford to release it.
Well, it's an awesome song. Is there anything about this episode that you guys wanted to touch on, just specifically for Neighbors? Because I wanted to break down the whole episode, but you guys are so interesting.
I've enjoyed just.
Yeah, we'll just chat with you, and I mean, it's a really, really great episode. You guys talk about so many different things, and in the end, they do stand up for themselves. You know, Paige is like, "Welcome to Los Angeles." You know, she sticks up for herself, and I was happy about that.
You know, it was important to a lot of the people, the writers in our room. And then the one thing we sort of did manage to hold on to was this idea of trying to keep the neighborhoods in LA authentic. What's really interesting in Los Angeles is you can drive, you know, there's sort of neighborhoods within neighborhoods. You're like, oh, this is little Armenia.
Yeah.
This is little Ethiopia, which is like
Which
inside.
is very New York to me, too.
And we had this sort of joke of like within a restaurant, there'd be like another restaurant, another restaurant, and like, oh, this is little Argentina, but it's really just like a table. Inside another restaurant.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the thought of like, you know, now people are coming here from Brooklyn. You keep meeting all these people who are coming here because it's cheaper and like
There's space.
And everything's starting to look.
It is.
And everything's starting to look like everything else, and it's kind of a bummer because there's something really wonderful about LA being so different and spread out, and you're able to, I think people shit on LA all the time.
You
but,
know,
like,
I'm glad that you're mentioning this, because I was actually going to ask you, especially because you lived in New York, and I lived in New York for like 4 years. I wanted to know, I want to know, what do you like about the business here versus New York? Like, would you ever go back to New York and do a project? Would you stay in LA? Like, what has it been for you guys out here?
I mean, New York's a wonderful city. I mean, you're dying to go back.
Well, we were just there. We just did some press there, and we were there for a week, and it's great. New York is fantastic, but in terms of, look, I've been living here for over 20 years. I've got kids. There's like we're rooted here.
You're rooted, right?
And it's so livable. It's just great. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
But New York's great. It would be fun to go back and work on something in New York.
It was funny, when we were in New York, I ran down one night, we were just jamming activities, and I ran down to the Whitney to see this show about cinema, and it was such an interesting crowd. It was so many white dudes. Like, I feel like New York has gotten so, it's beyond, I don't even know what is above 1%, but you have to be so wealthy to live there now. And I feel like you go to an art show, there's more diversity here.
And culture, and
just everywhere. I mean, there's more opportunity for everybody to experience everything here, at least on this side of town.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go west very often, but I feel like there's more opportunity for people to experience things.
That makes sense. Are you talking about the Valley?
The Valley and downtown.
Okay.
And, I just feel like, when we were talking this episode, and these people are coming here and they're opening a nap bar, and
how funny is that?
And like with the ponchos and the name dropping, and we were kind of poking fun at that a little bit, and I think
in every episode I feel like there is some satire there. That's why I was bringing it up before.
And sometimes I feel a little guilty, because I feel like if you're whatever you're doing, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, it's fine. We get on a lot of panels, and people ask us, like, well, what do you think about marijuana? Should it be legalized? And we're not here to be
right.
Well, it is.
Well, it is now.
Can't unring that bell.
We're not here exactly. Put the toothpaste
amongst
back.
many bells.
We're not here to be
Those
political.
bells.
And I really do feel like I have a lot of opinions about it, but do what you want to do. If you're not hurting anybody else, then leave everyone alone. And we tend to sort of, but I felt like, we were picking on people a little bit who want to like those things, who want that $12 piece of toast, or want that $600 poncho.
I feel like they need it.
or drink their soups with the plates.
We were sitting there that day, and I was like, I feel like we've picked on Gwyneth a couple times. I feel kind of bad about that. And then an email came from Goop, and it was like, essential sweaters. And they all started at $1,200. I was like, nah.
Put it in. Wait, is that the Gwyneth in this episode?
When they say, like, do you know Gwyneth?
Okay.
You must know Gwyneth.
I was going to ask, is
There's
it Gwyneth
no-
Paltrow?
yeah, I mean-
All right.
I mean, is there another Gwyneth?
Who would the other Gwyneth be?
Right. Hey, you gotta ask. Hey, just like Angelina.
Right.
But it's just like, who are we that an essential sweater is $1,200?
$1,200.
Seriously.
And why is it called it should be not.
That's not
That's not
essential.
essential.
Yeah.
No,
That's not
in any
essential.
way.
$10 H&M.
Unless that was like the uniform that everyone has to wear every day
In life, and
all
it-
year.
yeah, right.
Like, you have to wear
And
that
it
sweater
washes
every
itself.
day.
It washes. It's clean all year round. Does not smell.
Like, if it's like Wally and we all have to wear it every single day, and everyone's wearing the sweater, then maybe, I don't know.
No, I love it. No, I love how trendy the show is too.
Yeah,
we
it
talk
is
about
very
it all
trendy.
the time. And it just is.
But you know what? It's funny because Jason Alper, who is our costume designer, who's, the most resourceful and overworked human being on the planet, and he did all of Sacha Baron Cohen's movies. So he's invented the mankini and, like, the suit and Borat and all that. Every single piece of clothing in this was bought, like, off a bargain sale rack at Macy's or from Forever 21, or, like, everything was bought at that Burbank mall. I don't know which way I'm pointing.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, I
the-
know what you mean.
the
But
town
we
center or
wanted it to
whatever,
be like something that girls could copy at home that didn't feel like Olivia Pope does have fantastic coats, but like you can't buy that coat.
No.
But
Yeah.
everything, that shirt that
The California shirt?
the California shirt that Jess is wearing in all the promos, that's from Forever 21. My daughter has it. 3 of her friends have it. We just
That's
wanted
cool.
it to feel like it was something that you could get, but the way they put it together maybe is...
Yeah, I felt like for young viewers, it was very relatable, from the fashion
Totally.
to the culture.
Well, Paige was in a jean skirt and like a cherry top. It was I was watching it and I saw, and even Scout had like an orange top with like little eyeballs. And I felt that, you know, they were trying to impress these people, but they were still being themselves.
Right. Well, you got that right, because that was the point was, and what Jason said was, this is what they would wear if they thought they were being fancy at a party, and that's what you wear in your 20s. You know, and she clearly wants him to put her in a nudie photo, so she's like in that top that's a little see-through. And
I
like
love
she's
it.
Trying a little too hard.
Right. No, I was noticing, so he did a good job. Is there anything that you guys wanted to ask specifically about this episode, or anything that you guys wanted to touch on?
I think I've
covered everything.
I do have a question, though. The Prinz app. So, is that, because we're debating another debate. I wanted to close a lot of chapters here.
Yeah, sure.
Is that a real person in a room being taped, or is it just a programmed app that you give them an answer and they come back with an answer?
If it was a real app, I mean, obviously we had to shoot a real actor in a thing.
Right,
but,
obviously.
But the idea is, he's a computer-generated guy who is responding to phrases. You know, I think they're key phrases, that they're pre-programmed
That is
responses.
brilliant.
But
Yes.
the trick is, they're so generic.
Right.
You know, when he says
I was
that
dying.
thing that you do with
Do
your
with your
nose
nose,
that
I
only
was
you can
dying.
do.
I was cringing.
I
Said
knew it.
anybody.
I knew it.
Yeah.
See, I didn't get that, but now that you say that, is that an actual app?
No.
You guys need to.
You guys need to
You
pan
guys
it.
need to lock that down.
Get a software engineer.
Lock that down.
As soon as she's done with the Instagram, we'll get on
Lock
that.
that down.
You're jumping on that.
Yeah.
Paige, we're like everyone else. I just thought that's hilarious. I have everyone watching the show, and they're like, wow, this is just so funny, because it's so now. It's in what's happening.
Very LA too, like just the culture of it. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
What apps are you guys on? I'm out of apps.
Apps. Oh, no dating.
No dating apps, and that's why I was oblivious to the fact. I was like, wait, is there an actual? Is this real?
Do we swipe left on right on him?
Yeah.
It might be. I mean, you know, it might be at this point. I don't know.
Dating apps kind of depressed me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm just not owning up to the fact that this is where we are in our dating world, that this is pretty much how you meet people and date them. So I think I've kind of been in denial about dating apps, but
like we said
this
though
one,
too with her, even on the app, like she was
Yeah.
on an app talking to a person, but like you have a couple next door, like, you know, at the table next to them that are together, but they're still on their phones.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's the
Like
same.
everyone
Like, what
else.
is better?
It's
you
very
know?
now, you know what I mean? So that's why after the episode, I was like, wait a second, like,
Look it up.
wait, is that real?
Right.
So yeah.
And also, you bring a lot of Sex in the City stuff
Oh,
in.
the Carrie Bradshaw costume.
How funny is that? And
brilliant.
Well, I think, who was she supposed to be? Initially, Scout was always going to be crisscross, and there was a different
I
costume
don't
that
know
was
that.
picked
At
out.
first, I always remember Jess being.
There was a different costume picked out for her, and then
Ooh.
I think at the 11th hour we were like, "Oh, Carrie Bradshaw on the tutu."
and her hair was perfect.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And I remember
just remember
Jason. I
calling that-
remember Jason getting just the. It was the only time I saw Jason get the tiniest bit irritated because he had something. Oh, she was going to be Alyssa Silverstone in Clueless.
Oh, right.
And he had picked out that plaid.
Right.
The,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
very
Outfit
like.
ready.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember him being like,
Do you
and I think
understand
it was
how hard
more
it
that
was for
like
me
he
to
had
find
to
this?
go
Yeah.
find the thing, but it was such a dream for Jess to wear that outfit.
Aw.
And the nameplate necklace that, you know, she winds up wearing the nameplate necklace the rest of the show, but with her name on it.
Oh.
Well, that says Paige.
Yeah.
I
Fun
think
fact.
it says Carrie during the party, and then she's wearing the Paige one the rest of the show. And it's so great. It's so iconic, her walking down the street at night with the patyata and the tutu and the
Patyata.
And she was holding the.
And the
She had the
Cosmo.
Cosmo.
Yep.
Right.
Which we had repainted a number of times. It wasn't quite the right shade of pink.
Yeah.
Oh, so his paints.
Yeah, well, part of the costume.
And Janae's costume of Jerry Halliwell. So our co-host, who is not here, she's 19 and she does not know who the Spice Girls are.
Right.
And
She's like, I've heard of them. I was like, are you
And it made
kidding?
me feel
I didn't wanna
very
talk
young
about it.
because I
Yeah.
never age. So it just made me feel very young.
it made
That's
me
a good way to
disturbed.
look at it. Yeah, that's the way to look at
I
it.
love Jerry Halliwell, and I saw that.
Are we that
tribute.
old though?
Oh,
Like, we're not that old.
That's fine. I don't care. I'll be that old. I love.
No, yeah.
Well, there was a joke that got cut out when Janae, when she sang the song.
Janae's great.
And she kicks.
Oh, that's right. She's not in that, is
and she
she?
kicks
Oh,
after
yeah.
after the mic drop. We had to cut it for time, that she comes and kicks Paige out of the party for sort of stealing her spotlight, and she's like, and that song wasn't the 90s, it was like released in 2000, and I know because that was the year of my prom, and everybody looks at her because remember she's claiming to have been born in the night. She goes, "I mean my kindergarten prom." You guys had proms in kindergarten, and she's like, "You're the weird ones," and she stomps out of her party and she ruins her whole party.
And there was another bit in that where there was another Ginger Spice. You know, there's a scene where Janae's singing karaoke. And she's like looking at soft serve and singing karaoke. That scene started with another girl as Ginger Spice singing karaoke, and Janae's like, "I'm Ginger Spice. Get the fuck out, Spice." She kicks her out of her party.
You guys
and we had to cut it for time.
I want there to be the
a
DVD
bloopers,
series.
or not bloopers, but like deleted
Right.
scenes.
Right.
Well, because
Yeah,
initially
DVD
the
series.
concept was that every time we saw Janae during the party, she was going to be a different Spice Girl. And we couldn't afford all the Spice Girl costumes.
No.
So the
that
whole
would've
show,
been
the whole
hilarious.
thing was just compromise. It's like
Funny.
we have a huge idea, and then it's a small idea.
Right. Now let's make it 1/4 of that.
And then
Right.
we had a smaller idea, which was like, okay, so there's another Ginger Spice, and she's gonna walk through and say like, "You're get the fuck out, Spice."
I love the creative
And then we-
process.
And then we had to cut it out. So,
No,
but I have
that's
a
so
picture of them.
funny.
If you scroll all the way down on the Instagram, I think there's a picture of the two of them on set sitting next to each other. And the Get the Fuck Out Spice has like no sparkles in her costume.
She's the cheap,
So like cheap Ginger
Yeah.
Spice.
the cheap costume.
Yeah.
The knockoff.
Well, there's a few Sex in the City though references, and I wanted to ask you. Well, I guess not you, but what character? Or you can ask what Sex in the City character, because we all stick with one. And I know you got someone in the back of your mind.
It wasn't really my show, you guys. The
Really?
other writers, you know, we had a writers' room made up of almost all women, and that was definitely I mean, I know them, but I don't think I identified as any of those women.
She's Carrie Bradshaw, guys.
She's totally Carrie.
I mean,
okay, she's the writer.
I mean, I love the
brains.
shoes, and I thought like the fashion was really fantastic.
It
And I'm not, and by the
was.
way, I watched the show, but I don't think I really identified as one of those people.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's all my questions I had to ask. And let everyone know where they can find you too. On social media.
Your
My
home address.
house,
Yes,
mostly
your home
my
address.
address.
Tell everybody your
Oh my gosh, not your address.
They can hear the barking dogs.
So Twitter, Real Deb Kaplan. Instagram, MTV Mary Jane.
At Harry Elfont on Twitter.
Great.
It might be Mary Jane MTV. You'll find it.
It's Mary Jane. It's Mary Jane
it.
I
MTV.
believe it is.
I found it.
We're
I
following
found
it.
it.
Tweet it out. I'm Jennifer Leone. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jennifer Leone TV.
Thanks for watching, guys, and thank you guys for joining us tonight. I'm Abigail Fraher, and you can follow me at Abigail Fraher.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Ava Hill, and you can find me on Instagram at the Ava Hill.
All right, bye-bye, guys. Have a great one.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.